Hello students, welcome to the English class. This will be our last video for the chapter The Necklace. Today we will finish it, and so far in the story you have seen that Matilda was a young and pretty girl, but she was born in a poor family and she loved to have jewelry and costly frock, but she didn't have any, and she had married a petty office girl. Unfortunately, it was an error of destiny how she concluded, and she was unhappy for her poor condition, and she never liked to visit her school friend named Forrester because she was rich. This was embarrassing thing for in her life. One day her husband showed her an invitation card from a minister, but she forbade to go as she didn't have proper clothes. That was the first problem that came. And how it was solved, Mr. Loisel arranged 400 francs finally, after she requested him and for a new dress. And the second problem was the necklace, and that was borrowed from Madame Forrester as her husband suggested her. And in the ball, in the party when they went, she danced and enjoyed heartily, and but there she lost the necklace, and that was the unfortunate, and that was the big disaster came into their life. And Mr. Loisel had to borrow 36,000 francs at a high rate of interest to buy a same necklace of 40,000 francs. You know how it was adjusted and managed by him, and how their life got changed, and their life actually going to become the hell, because you can understand the amount. 36,000 francs, once 400 francs were a big amount for them, but even it was managed at that time, and now it was the time, it was the amount of 36,000, and their life was not going to be easy. So let's see what happened into their life next, and how the necklace was finally returned. And at the time of return, how she was worried that if she would identify the necklace, what would happen? She would be called, she could have been called like a robber or cheater. All things were coming, but no, nothing happened, and the necklace was returned successfully to Madame Forrester. Now see their next life, how it was. Madame Loisel, uh, you can see here, we are starting from here, this paragraph. Madame Loisel now knew the horrible life of necessity, and she did her part. Horrible life of necessity. You know how the life was horrible now. It was not easy, because the debt was of 36,000, and it was a big task. It was a big task to repay that amount. It was not easy. Okay, so she did her part, and however completely heroically to be a leader, and just she thought of herself that somewhere she was the responsible person, and she was taking the responsibility, like to pay the amount. So she was also trying to work it. It was necessary to pay this frightful debt, that frightful and fearful debt of 36,000. It was a daunting task, you can say. It was not an easy but daunting task, right, to pay the debt which came unnecessarily into their life. And she would pay it, she thought of herself. And they sent away the maid, and they changed their lodging. This was the change, actually. The maids, the servants, which were working there, they sent them all, because of they were not ready, and they were not able to pay them the salary wise, like. And they changed their lodgings also, and they rented some rooms in an attic, and they actually rented some rooms in an attic, in a garret, or the chawl, we can say. And she learned the odious work. She learned that odious, very odd, very cheap kind of work of the kitchen. How, earlier they were dependent on the maids or the servants. They used to do those kind of work, the task, and now she had to do. So it is said, and so called, the word is odious, right? The kitchen work and the household work. But now she was doing, and she washed the dishes, utensils, and she washed a soiled linen. How the curtains could be, that was made of linen, the cloth, and their cloths and dish cloths, and which she hung on the line to dry. How we also put. And she took down the refuse, the garbage, refuse, like. So she took down the refuse to the street each morning. Every morning she went to refuse to throw the garbage, and brought up water, at return, in return, when she was coming back to the house, and she was getting and taking water, stopping at each landing to catch her breath. How, if you feel, and if you think of the same, like if you have to go to bring water from the another corner in your street, and you have buckets, and the bucket is full of water, and you will come, then on the way, you have to take breath, and you have to take rest, and not constantly or continuously you can come to your house holding or keeping those buckets into your hand and hanging like. So you want to take breath, and the same she was doing. Once she was going to throw the garbage, the refuse, and at the coming when she was coming back, and she was getting those buckets of water, right? So on the way, on the path, on the middle, she was taking breath, and that way she was resting. Okay, and clothes like a woman of the people now, and clothed like a woman now. She was in an ordinary manner. Like earlier she wanted to be rich, and she wanted all the luxuries into her life, but now she had to live very simple, very common, very ordinary life. So it is written that clothed like a woman of the people, that was simple woman. And she went to the grocers and the butchers and the fruiterers. Previously she was not going, because of the servants were there, maids were there, they were going to purchase groceries and the fruits, and to the butcher's house, like. But now she was going everywhere with her basket on her arm, shopping and haggling, bargaining, to the last sou of her miserable money. How miserable, very pathetic, very slow, very odd, very cheap, very. She was not having so much money now. That it was, that means the miserable money she had, right? Not enough money she had. So she was bargaining. She was fighting for every penny. So the French currency, the small that unit of that currency. So for every penny she was fighting, and she was bargaining with the shopkeepers, right? That is. See, the husband walked evening, and now this was the part of husband. Here, this was about the wife, but Matilda Loisel, how she was struggling and working, and now husband, what he was doing. The husband worked evenings, putting the books of some merchants in order, and the nights he often did copying at 5 sous a page. So day and night he was working. He was putting the books in an order, and at night what he was doing, he often did copying at 5 sous a page. Per page he was getting 5 sous because of copying. He was doing the copy work, right? And this life lasted for 10 years, guys. For 10 years, you can see how a small thing, how only a necklace, very small thing, necklace, and how they managed. And due to that, how 10 years of their life they had to suffer. That was a big thing. At the end of 10 years, they had restored all. And finally, after 10 years, they restored all. Their life became as well as it was earlier. Madame Loisel seemed old now. Obviously, she was old because of that household work she had to do for approx 10 years, and she had become a strong and hard woman. And how she had become strong and hard and a crude woman. Crude, like how kind of that villagers woman used to be, or we can say in Hindi, dehati kind of, right? Of the poor household, and her hair badly dressed, like that was not combed properly, and her skirts awry, that was not ironed properly, awry, ironed, and her hands red because of that work she had to do. And she spoke in a loud tone that had become her habit earlier, like how decent women or the ladies at home, they used to speak in a very low tone. But now the habit had come into her that she used to speak in a loud tone, and washed the floors, and how washed the floors with large pails, buckets of water. But sometimes when her husband was at the office, she would seat herself. Now see, this was that whenever she was sitting alone at home, her husband was in the office, at the office, she would seat herself before the window. She would seat herself before the window and think of that evening. Listen, guys, she used to sit near the window, and she used to think, about that former time, about that ball, about that party, how once they were enjoying into that party where she was so beautiful and so flattered. how she was flattered, how she had been flattered by those male employees who were present over there. You know the line, everybody wanted to introduce themselves in front of her. So that time she was recalling sitting here near the window. And how would it have been? See, how would it have been if she had not lost the necklace? Now, this was the possibility. She was thinking that if the necklace wasn't lost, what would be their life? But no, it didn't happen, right? Who knows now? Singular is how singular is life, how singular is life, she is saying. Singular, isolated their life had become, and how full of changes. So many changes came, and how small a thing will run or save one. That is the tagline. You can underline, guys, also, that how a small thing was responsible for the run, for the spoil of their life, we can say, and we can conclude that a very small thing can ruin and can save our life. Okay, that was the thing which happened. Okay, so one Sunday, now what happened? See, one Sunday, as she was taking a walk in the Champs Elysees to Rid, that's the place there, right, that area where she was taking around and walking to rid herself. To rid herself, that means to avoid those all old memories or the cares of the week. How during the week she had to work, so all those worries, all those cares of the week, just to avoid and ignore and to forget those things, she was taking a walk, and she suddenly perceived, recognized a woman walking with a child. There she saw a lady was walking with a child, and it was none other than Madame Forrester. Who that lady was? Madame Forrester, still young, still pretty, still attractive. Madame Loisel was affected. She was surprised. Loisel, when she saw her, she got surprised. She was affected that should she speak to her? Now, she was considering herself that how after 10 years tenure, and she was just looking that lady, Madame Forrester, she was her friend, and now she wanted to talk. So in a hodgepodge condition, that now what should do? Should I talk to her? And what? Yes, certainly. Now she concluded that yes, why not? And now that she had paid, that was the main thing. And she was thinking in herself that she had paid, that means she had returned that necklace, and she would tell her all. Why not? And now after 10 years, it's okay to tell her the story about the necklace now. And finally they have returned, right? So what did she say? See here, she approached her. Good morning, Jenny. And how she talked to her. Good morning, Jenny. Her friend did not recognize, as usual, how the condition it was narrated in the earlier paragraph, that how she had become. So she didn't recognize her, and was astonished, and was surprised to be so familiarly addressed by this common personage. How, that unknown people, like there in the market, and somebody is calling you with a very familiar tone, and a very common person, like kind of that whom you know, but by looking she didn't recognize. So she was surprised, and she stammered, she baffled again. She couldn't speak properly. That but madam, I do not know, you must be mistaken. That was her reply. No, I am Matilda Loisel. She responded again that I am Matilda Loisel. She was Matilda Loisel. Her friend uttered a cry of astonishment. In a great surprise, she shouted that, oh, my poor Matilda, how you have changed. Because of that scene, that looks of that lady, Matilda Loisel was not same as she had seen her before 10 years. How? So she was surprised as she was just talking to her. And now, what did she say? Yes, I have had some hard days since I saw you, and some miserable ones, and all because of you. See the line, what she said. Yes, I have had some hard days, very difficult days I had since I saw you. Once when I saw you, and because of that, and during and from that time, and some miserable ones, and all because of you. She blamed her finally that everything was because of you. You are the reason of our sufferings, and for 10 years, and like everything she narrated because of me. As she heard, she didn't know the story actually, so she said, because of me? How is that? She was surprised that how is that? I didn't understand. So now she was saying that you recall the diamond necklace. You recall the diamond necklace you had loaned me to wear to the minister's ball. She said. She said that, do you remember that necklace? Right? That loaned me when that necklace I borrowed from you to go to the minister's party to the ball. She replied, yes, yes, very well. So she said, well, I lost it. That was the reality, that was the truth. Now she revealed that the original, that real necklace which was borrowed by her, which was lost at that time, and now she was telling to her, how is that since you returned it to me? And she was surprised again because of she received that necklace at that time, and now she is saying this reality. So she didn't believe on her, and she said that how can it possible, how can it be possible, right? Since you returned it to me, you had returned that necklace to me. She said, I returned another to you exactly like it. Now Matilda said that, yes, I returned, but that necklace was not yours. That was of the other. That was the optional, and that was the other necklace which was made by us. She revealed. She said, and it has taken us 10 years to pay for it. She said the story of the necklace, that how they managed the necklace, how 36,000 francs they had to pay, and to repay that debt they had to suffer for 10 years. And you can understand that it was not easy for us who have nothing. Now she said the reality of the family, that it was not easy to pay the 36 amount, or to pay the debt, which was not easy for the family because of they had nothing. They were already poor. But it is finished, but now it is over, and I am decently content. And I am decently content. She said that now I am satisfied because of now we have cleared all those debt, and now nothing to be taken or given like that, right? So, Madame Forrester. Madame Forrester stopped short, and now she stopped for a moment, and she said, you say that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine. Still, she didn't understand that what was the reality and what the story she was telling. So she said that, what was the necklace and diamond necklace, and you replace mine, and what the story you are saying, and what the which necklace you bought, and like so. Just tell me the clear story. So she said, yes, you did not perceive it then. She said that, yes, it was purchased, the another necklace which was purchased by us, and we handed over that another necklace to you. And at that time, you didn't perceive, you didn't recognize that when we returned, and they were just alike, they were similar, right? Nobody can differentiate those, and you too also. So they were alike, they were same. She said, and she smiled with proud and simple joy. And now Matilda, she smiled with proud and simple joy. She smiled. Why? Because of even though it was lost, but they managed and they returned the necklace, the exact similar necklace to them. So she was feeling proud, and now simple joy, because of after at least after 10 years at least they were able to make their life contented, right? Madame Forrester was touched and took both her hands as she replied. And Madame Forrester, when she understood the entire story, she was touched. She got emotional. She became emotional and took both her hands as she replied. And she holded her both hands, and as she replied, and she said, oh, my poor Matilda, mine were false. This is the final reality and the final shock which was coming to Matilda, that mine were false, and they were not worth over 500 francs, and that was only of less than 500 francs. And for that, the family, Matilda Loisel, had to pay 36,000 francs. You can understand, guys, that how a small mistake, how a small desire was sufficient to ruin their entire life, and how they suffered for 10 years. This is the reality, and this is the message from the chapter is coming. You can understand that how uh, the story, guys, and the message, and the common thing is coming from the chapter, that this is actually the quality of human beings. How we all human beings, we are not satisfied from our lives what we have, right? This is the reality, that we are not happy what we have, but we are sad which we do not have. Like, we are worrying about the things which we are not having, but whatever we have, and we are not getting the satisfaction from that actually. So So this is the big trouble into our life. So what we have to do, we have to be happy whatever we have, not to be sad whatever we do not have. That's the main thing, and that's the reality. Okay, guys, I hope you understood the story. It was very easy. And now, as in homework, all the textbook questions you have to solve. And in the next video, we can also discuss those question answers. If you feel any trouble or any problem in that, I think those questions will be easy. Okay, and then we will start the next chapter after the necklace in the next video. Until then, bye bye. Thank you.